The airport bustled with its usual chaos, echoes of announcements, the rolling thunder of luggage wheels, and the constant blur of strangers rushing to and from destinations. But in a quiet, overlooked corner near Gate 12, a small girl sat alone in a wheelchair, unmoving and oddly silent amidst the noise. Her hands gripped the arms of her chair tightly, and in her lap rested a worn-out stuffed rabbit with one eye missing. She wore a navy blue hoodie that was too big for her frame and had a soft pink blanket tucked around her motionless legs. Her long, dark hair fell in sheets over her shoulders, and behind her round glasses, her wide brown eyes scanned every face that passed, searching, hoping. No one stopped. A few glanced, maybe pitied, but then continued on their way. She had been there for over 4 hours. David, a tired single dad, was weaving through the crowd with his drowsy 6-year-old son, Liam, clinging to his hand. Their flight had been delayed twice, and all he wanted was to find a quiet spot to rest. As they passed Gate 12, something tugged at him, an instinct he'd learned never to ignore as a father. He stopped and turned. There she was, sitting like a forgotten soul in a sea of movement. Alone. Still. Too still. "Hang on, bud," David murmured to Liam, gently guiding him to a nearby bench. "Stay right here, okay?" He crouched down beside the girl, keeping his voice soft. "Hey there, are you waiting for someone?" She blinked, startled, then nodded. "My dad was supposed to send someone to get me," she whispered. "But no one came. I think they forgot." His heart twisted. "How long have you been sitting here?" "I don't know, since morning." David looked around. No adult nearby, no airport personnel hovering. Just this little girl, so still and far too quiet for her age. "Do you have your dad's number?" he asked, trying to stay calm. She nodded and reached into a small purse hanging from the chair, pulling out a crumpled note. David unfolded it and read, "Alexander Shaw, CEO, ShawTech Enterprises." He blinked in disbelief. He knew that name. The Alexander Shaw. One of the wealthiest men in the country. But right now, his little girl was alone, vulnerable, and forgotten. David stood, phone in hand. Whatever her last name was, no child should ever feel like an afterthought. David stepped aside from the gate and dialed the number written on the crumpled note, glancing back at the fragile girl in the wheelchair who now sat quietly beside his son. The phone rang twice before a rushed voice answered. "Yes. Who is this?" The tone was curt, but something desperate lurked beneath it. "Mr. Shaw?" David asked. "My name is David Miller. I'm at the airport, Gate 12. Your daughter. Ivy, she's here. Alone. She said someone was supposed to pick her up, but no one came." There was a sharp inhale on the other end. Silence. Then the voice cracked, an emotion David didn't expect from a man like Alexander Shaw. "You found Ivy? My God. I sent my assistant. She was supposed to be there hours ago. She promised me." David looked over at Ivy, who was quietly chatting with Liam. The contrast struck him. 2 kids, so different in background, yet instantly connected. "Sir, I don't know what happened," David said, his voice firm. "But your daughter has been sitting here since morning. No food, no water. She was scared. I was in Tokyo, board meetings and shareholders," Shaw stammered. "My flight got rerouted. I trusted my team. I never thought." "You trusted the wrong person," David cut in, though not unkindly. "Ivy doesn't need a limo or a name badge. She needed her father. Or at least someone who cared enough to show up." Shaw exhaled slowly. "Where are you now?" "At a hotel just near the terminal," David replied. "I didn't want to leave her at the airport. I got her something to eat. She's with my son, they're watching cartoons." There was a long pause, and then Shaw's voice returned, softer. Thank you. I don't even know who you are, but, thank you. Please, don't leave her side. I'm on a jet now, I'll land in the morning. David looked down at the girl curled beside his son on the couch, her bunny tucked under her chin. I'm not going anywhere. That night, David didn't sleep much. He kept checking the room, making sure Ivy was warm, fed, and safe. He didn't know how a billionaire like Shaw could let something like this happen, but he knew one thing for sure: no child deserved to feel forgotten just because the world thought they were taken care of by wealth. The knock came just after sunrise. David, still in yesterday's clothes, opened the hotel room door to find a tall, sharply dressed man with sleep-deprived eyes and disheveled hair standing there. Despite the expensive suit and commanding presence, Alexander Shaw looked nothing like the media mogul from magazine covers. In that moment, he looked like a father completely undone. "Ivy," he whispered, his voice breaking as he stepped into the room. She was curled on the couch with Liam, both still asleep, heads leaning against each other. At the sound of her name, her eyes fluttered open. Recognition lit her face, followed by a quiver of emotion. "Daddy!" Shaw dropped to his knees beside her, wrapping his arms around her carefully, as if afraid she might break. "I'm so sorry, baby. I should have been there. I should have never left it to anyone else." Watching from across the room, David felt a lump rise in his throat. Despite everything, he could see the man truly loved his daughter, he just hadn't known how to put her first until it was nearly too late. After Ivy had settled again, David joined Shaw on the balcony outside. The morning breeze was crisp, and silence stretched between them before Shaw finally spoke. "I failed her," he said, eyes fixed on the sky. "All this success, all these resources. And I couldn't even make sure my little girl got picked up safely from an airport." David crossed his arms, leaning against the rail. "You didn't just fail her. You let the world tell you that assistance and systems were enough. They aren't. Not when it comes to your own child." Shaw nodded slowly. "You're right. And you saw her when no one else did. You stepped in when I didn't." "I'm a dad," David said simply. "I know what fear in a child's eyes looks like. I couldn't walk away." Shaw turned to him. "You don't know what you've done for me. And for her. But I want to. I want to repay you, not with money, but with purpose." David raised a brow, uncertain. "I run a company full of people who see numbers, not stories. But I need someone like you, someone who sees people. Let me offer you a job. Help me change how we do things." David hesitated, but something in Shaw's eyes told him this wasn't just about business. It was about redemption. 6 months later, the world around David had transformed, though the man himself had not. He still made Liam's breakfast each morning and read bedtime stories at night. But now he did so from a modest townhouse provided by ShawTech's executive relocation program. At the heart of the change was his new role, Director of Family Outreach, a position created specifically by Alexander Shaw to ensure no child tied to the company or its employees was ever overlooked again. It wasn't about titles or suits. It was about people. David had traded long shifts and unstable jobs for boardroom meetings and nationwide initiatives. His work focused on supporting employees with families, improving company childcare policies, and creating programs for children with disabilities. He visited schools, spoke at seminars, and, even more importantly, he stayed close to Ivy. The bond between her and Liam had blossomed into a beautiful friendship. She often visited their home, and her laughter, free, unguarded, was the sound of healing. As for Shaw, everything about him had shifted. He no longer allowed others to manage Ivy's schedule. His private jet had a wheelchair-accessible ramp. His office had been redesigned with her needs in mind. But most importantly, his presence became consistent. He was no longer just a powerful CEO, he was a present father. And that made all the difference. One warm afternoon at a children's charity event hosted by ShawTech, a young reporter approached the podium where Shaw was giving a heartfelt speech. "What inspired such a drastic shift in company priorities?" she asked. Shaw glanced across the crowd, pausing when he saw David and Ivy sitting together on the lawn, Liam resting against Ivy's wheelchair as they shared a bag of popcorn. His answer was quiet but certain. "A man I didn't know once asked a question no one else bothered to: why is she all alone?" That moment rewrote my life. Later, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, Ivy looked up at David and whispered, "Do you think if you hadn't stopped that day, we'd still have found each other?" David smiled, eyes misty. "I think the right people find each other, even in the middle of an airport." She reached out her small hand and held his. "You weren't just there for me. You saved my dad too." And just like that, in a world so used to passing strangers by, one man's simple choice, to stop and care, had rewritten the future for them all.